Hey guys, this is the mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys are doing well and that you're happy, healthy, whole, and safe. So today I'm going to discuss some of the updates in Martell and Melody's custody situation, as well as some of the statements that Melody made on Instagram yesterday. But first, for the month of September, I'm going to be suspending astrology readings and consultations because I have to spend all of my free time, or the bulk of my free time, developing this introductory astrology course that I'm hoping to release in October. Okay, the tarot readings and the consultations are very labor intensive and they're draining, so I'm going to take a beat from the astrology readings and consultations, but you can still order tarot readings. I incorporate astrology into my tarot readings anyway. And tarot readings are a lot quicker for me. I can get those out within half an hour to 45 minutes. It takes a while for the astrology readings and consultations to be done, okay? So for the month of September, I'm going to be suspending the astrology consultations and reports, but you can still order a tarot reading. I'm also going to be posting weekly and monthly tarot readings on this channel or another channel. I haven't figured it out yet. That will be a free service for my subscribers. I started posting tarot readings on the community forum several weeks back, but a bunch of nonsense has happened over the past month, and it seems like things are settling down now, so I'll have more time to devote to the forum and to develop the introductory astrology course. Alright, so a couple of days ago, I preemptively stated that Martell and Melody's custody case had already been resolved, right? And some of you guys let me know that, and Melody even mentioned that the case had not been resolved yet, right? So I wanted to make a correction to the video title that I made a couple days ago, stating that Martell is relieved about losing the custody case, and that wasn't true. So I ultimately changed the title to Why I Believe Martell Does Not Want Custody of His Children, right? Because I never believed that Martell wanted custody of his kids. I just thought that this was a way for him to get at Melody, to attack her, to further abuse her, to have access to her. And I mentioned that in my commentary, so I'm not going to take that video down. I'm just going to change the title of it because I was preemptive in my assumption, okay? Even though I don't think my assumption is incorrect, I would rather wait until the case is closed before I say Martell is happy he lost the custody case, because it's common sense. You don't say something that's not true for likes and clicks, right? So I thought I was true because people kept sending me these posts about the case being closed or whatever. I'm like, okay, I didn't do any research on it because I've been so busy and I don't really have time to delve into Love and Marriage Huntsville as much as I used to. And I don't really want to as much as I used to because it got kind of toxic, and I explained why I was pulling back several weeks ago. All right. With that said, Martell went on to IG Live and he talked about the fact that he does not want to take custody of the kids, but Melody essentially forced his hand by having all these random people, 20 plus people, watching his children when they're with her, right? So Martell had 50-50 custody of their children. They split 1 week on, 1 week off, which is interesting. I wonder why they didn't do 2 and 2 instead of 1 and 1. I don't know why they agreed to that schedule, but it is what it is. So Martell keeps lamenting about the fact that Melody is so busy. She's so busy. She might as well let me have the kids full time. Just like when we were married, she was so busy. And I was thinking about, you know what? Martell keeps harping on the fact that she's so busy. Since you're so busy, you're so busy. And he was complaining about that since they were married. You're so busy. You're too busy to cook. You're too busy to clean. You're too busy to watch the kids. You're too busy to have sex with me. I would think that if Martell was so adamant about providing a structured, stable life for his children, that he would take advantage of Melody being so busy when he was married to her to spend more time with the kids and to compensate in areas where he thought she was lacking, right? So in a marriage, it's not always going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be 70-30, 60-40, sometimes even 80-20, depending on the dynamic of the relationship. If Martell was saying that he was a dominant parent and he had no problem being the dominant parent, Melody being busy constantly would not be a surprise to him, and I would think that he would have adapted better because he wanted to make sure that his family remained intact. But instead of spending more time with the children, like he seems to want to do now, when he was married to Melody, he spent less time with the children because he was messing with this mistress. So Martell is upset that Melody may have men and people around their children that may put them in danger, right? But Martell chose to cheat with a woman who despises the mother of his children. He chose to weaponize another woman against the mother of his children, who he says he loves so much. Martel loves his kids so much, and he wants to provide a stable environment for them so much that instead of doing that when he was married, he decided to have an affair with a woman that pulled them away from his kids and his home and his wife. That's what he chose to do, right? But now, because Melody is still so busy, he wants to have full custody of the kids. Now they're divorced. He wants full custody of the kids, but he didn't want full custody of the kids when they were married. So he could have picked up the slack for Melody. And I remember them talking about this in season 2. They had an argument about it. I think this was right before the pandemic, and Melody had a bunch of projects, and Martel was like frustrated. He was like, she's doing too much. And Melody said, this is a great opportunity for me. You can't pick up the damn slack and cook for the kids once in a while. When was the last time you cooked breakfast for the kids? He said, I should not have to cook. I have a wife. That does not sound like a primary custodian to me, because the custodial parent cooks and cleans for the children for the most part, unless you have lots of money and you can pay maids and chefs and cooks and nannies to do this, right? So to reiterate my point, because I'm drawing this out as I'm talking to you guys, when you were married and you had the opportunity to have full custody of the kids, so you say, you decided to have an affair on your wife, which pulled you away from your children energetically, financially, and I'm not going to say emotionally, but you destabilize your household, which had a negative impact on your children. So instead of taking advantage of the fact that Melody was so busy back then, like she is right now, instead of saying this is an opportunity for me to show the kind of partner that I want my wife to be, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to model this for her. This is how I want her to show up in my marriage. And also, instead of giving her the opportunity to do that by getting your builder's license, you decided to get a girlfriend who you ultimately got pregnant, and that destroyed your family. This is why I said it's not about the kids for Martel. It was never about the kids. It's about controlling Melody. Because if it was about the children, Melody being busy and being the primary breadwinner would have been an opportunity for Martel to do what he's doing now, right? To be the dominant parent, to be the primary custodian. And you could have done this without breaking apart your marriage and creating another broken family with Arion. What is interesting to me is that Martel weaponized his mistress against his wife, right? He fostered an unhealthy relationship between a woman that he said he loved, who was the mother of his children, and his side piece. And by fostering this hostile environment between the two women, he made it difficult for this woman to now be brought into the fold of their family once he got divorced, right? So because Martel had no intention of divorcing Melody, he really didn't care about using Arion as a weapon to hurt Melody. He did not expect Arion to have a child by him. He didn't even want a child by her. But he was being sloppy and deceptive, and Arion fell for the games. So she had a baby by a man who wanted to hold on to his family because the man convinced her that his wife wasn't shit, right? So Martel spent years disrespecting the mother of his children that he claims to want custody over to protect them from the world. There's nothing wrong with a father wanting to make sure that the people around their child, they're not predators, they're not molesters, they're not criminals. That is fair, right? And Melody wants the same thing. She would not want a bunch of Martels around her children either, okay? But unfortunately, Martel makes it difficult for Melody to collaborate with him because Martel will use any opportunity to control Melody and micromanage her life. Martel even mentioned them sharing chefs and babysitters and nannies and something like that. That would be an ideal situation if Melody wasn't dealing with an abusive stalker and a narcissist, right? That isn't an unreasonable request. But what Martel does not understand is that he hurt Melody more than her brother and her husband has ever hurt her. And he's the father of her children, okay? So if I can have the father of my children who is abusive to me around my kids, surely I can have my gay brother and his husband around my children, right? If you remember in season 2, I believe, Martel and Melody were at the Black launch event, and Martel was saying he didn't want the kids around Marcus because he is gay, right? He doesn't want them raised in that environment. A lot of Southern men think this way. A lot of men think this way. They think that all gay men are pedophiles, right? Now, I will say that a lot of gay men have had early experiences with sexual abuse as children. I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but that's something that should be looked into. I'm not saying that Marcus has done that or he wants to do that. I don't think so at all. He is an esteemed member of the community. He's a model citizen. Marcus is a model citizen, okay, compared to a lot of black men in our community. And his sexual preferences should have nothing to do with his extraordinary professional and personal track record, okay? There's no claims of molestation and abuse from him. When Melody needed help, he was supportive, he was loving, he was generous, right? He was kind, he was patient. He was everything that Martell was not. So it is hard for Melody to justify or reconcile with the idea of not having somebody who loves her around her children. Martell does not love Melody or respect Melody, yet she has to have him around their children, right? So to state it more clearly, okay, Melody feels less safe around Martell than she does around her brother and his husband. So she's going to vehemently reject any attempts at Martell to tell her who she should have around her children, because the person she has to have around her kids, their father, is more dangerous and detrimental and abusive to her than anybody else in her life. Now, I'm not saying that Martell is wrong for wanting to control who's around his kids. Most parents are like this. Most fathers don't want random men around their children. But then they'll tell us women, right? When we say men ain't shit and we can't trust them, they act like they don't know why. But when it comes to their kids, all of a sudden they become aware of how dysfunctional, abusive, selfish, and toxic many men are. Okay? So a lot of men don't want other men around their kids because they know that men are savages. Not all men. There are some great men out there. But too many men in our community are savages, and they prey on little children. And Melody's children are in a more vulnerable position now that she's a single mother. That's just what it is. But Melody's children is also vulnerable under Martell's care because Martell has issues, and Melody wants to protect her children from the issues that Martell has, which caused him to destroy his family. So Melody can't win for losing, right? My ex-husband's an asshole, a jerk, an abuser, a liar, right? A narcissist, a manipulator. And he's telling me that he does not want my children around people who could potentially hurt them. But I have to have them around somebody, him, who hurt them in real life by destroying their family, by disrespecting their mother. Okay? If you guys remember in season 2, Martell Jr. said, Daddy was acting like a crazy man, and he felt the need to protect his mother from his father. That is going to be a prevailing theme in that boy's life. It's a common thing in many boys' life, right? When they're growing up in an environment with their father in the same household, at some point, the little bull is going to test his horns. We all saw Shaka Zulu, and what happened when Shaka Zulu came of age, okay? He started to test his father. This is normal behavior. Adolescents do this. Boys and girls do this. But the dynamic between Tank and Martell is going to be very delicate because Tank saw his father abuse his mother as a child, right? He saw his mother verbally, at the very least, verbally abusing his mother, making her cry. And for little boys, that is unacceptable. To keep it 100, many little girls are male identified. If they are raised around their father, many little girls look up to their daddy. They worship their daddies more than the little boys do, right? Little boys cling to their mother more. That's just what it is. It's not always the case, but I've noticed this. That's why many black women prefer sons over daughters, because sons typically worship their mothers and daughters are seen as competition for ratchet, pick-me mothers, okay? So fine. Tank at some point is going to begin to assert his identity and his autonomy as he comes into his own as a man. Martell not wanting any man around his children is an attempt, in my opinion, to brainwash his kids. Narcissists love to isolate their relatives, their family and friends. They don't want anybody to know about the dirt they're doing behind the scenes. So what they'll do is they'll create this little bubble, this little sheltered, isolated, cult-like environment where they have complete control over the thoughts and the actions and the feelings of the people around them, okay? And narcissists do this to ensure that they have a continuous source of narcissistic supply. If narcissistic relationships are your only frame of reference, you're going to think that's normal behavior. So you're less likely to check the narcissist if you think that what they're doing is normal, right? So by Martell saying, I don't want anyone else around my kids, no other man, to have access to my child, it is not just about the sexual abuse thing, right? That is a legitimate concern that most parents have, okay? I'm not going to discount that as a fact. That's just a fact. It is also for Martell to have complete control over the minds of his children, just like he had complete control over Melody's mind, to the point where she thought that despite the abuse that she experienced in the beginning of their relationship, right, You remember she couldn't even celebrate their 1-year anniversary because he had disrespected her, and he was basically trying to cheat on her before she got married to him because she had no other frame of reference outside of Martell. She was really, really young when she got to him. She didn't know how narcissists operate. He kind of brainwashed her into staying with him as long as she did and feeling guilty for wanting to leave him. Melody talked about feeling guilty for breaking up their family, and also she felt like she needed to protect Martell from himself, and she said, I can't do it no more. I can't keep shielding you from your karma, right? Melody knew that her being in Martell's life protected him from what he's going through right now. So she sacrificed herself for the cult of Martell to ensure that he and the children had financial, emotional, and psychological security, even at the expense of herself, her sanity, her emotional security, right? Her peace of mind. And Martell was able to accomplish this by chiseling away at Melody's sense of self. He would probably make her feel guilty for wanting to leave, or he would outright try to block her from leaving, right? And we know what happened during the separation. Martell also talked about the $34,000 that he stole from Melody to pay off some of his debt. Apparently it wasn't shared debt, it was Martell's debt. So he took some of Melody's money, right? It seems like, I'm speculating here, it seems like Martell had his own debts that he had accumulated during the relationship, and he used Melody's half of the money to satisfy those debts. He kept switching off and saying, that was my money, that was our money, that was my money, that was our money. But it turns out he's fired his lawyer for calling him out on his bullshit. Martell doesn't like to be checked on anything, right? So now apparently Melody wants her money back, and she should get it back. She was going to let him off the hook, but guess what? Sometimes you have to go for the jugular. And that brings me to my next point. A few weeks ago, I talked about Melody being absolutely disgusted with Martell. And I also talked about the fact that at some point, Melody is going to have to clap back. She's going to have to damn near eviscerate him in order for him to respect her boundaries, right? Don't mean he's going to love her, doesn't mean he's going to respect her, but at the very least, you're going to act like you respect me, right? Somebody, I think it was the Black Bumblebee, shout out to her. She's been an OG follower from the very beginning, like very, very supportive of my platform. I think she mentioned Melody using the gray rock technique. And I was going to post a separate video about that, but I will say this. The gray rock technique only works temporarily, okay? First off, what is the gray rock technique? The gray rock technique is basically withdrawing any sort of emotional reaction or response from the narcissist, right? You don't show them happiness, you don't show them sadness, no fear, no anger, nothing. All your responses to them are flat, dry, logical, to the point. There is no emotional connection. You're just giving them exactly what they need or what they ask for and nothing more, okay? You're essentially acting as if you're a zombie or a robot around them because they get fuel from triggering you, right? So if you stop giving them that fuel by tempering your emotions and not responding to their dysfunction and their abuse, essentially you disarm them. This only works temporarily. Okay, this does not work in the long term, especially if you're dealing with a narcissist that is a relative, a family member, or somebody you have to engage with over a long period of time. It only works in short-term relationships. What happens over time is that the narcissist usually becomes frustrated with the gray rocking technique, and they'll do things that are more and more incendiary to get a response out of you. They usually say and do things more outrageously during their interactions with you. They'll lie to you or lie on you to your face. They will curse you out, even become more violent, right? But their most common tactic is blatantly lying to you and lying on you to the people around them to force you to defend yourself. And you're usually going to become angry if you have to do that. And that is the point that Melody is at right now. I'm not surprised that she's here. As I told some of my clients, Mars in Gemini is squaring Mercury in Virgo, which is retrograde at this point, okay? Mars in Gemini square Mercury is violent communication, it's arguments, it's debates, it's fighting, it's impatience. It is even accidents while driving, okay? So with Melody losing her cool at this point, I'm not surprised it's happening now. And even though I believe she's justified in her anger, right? And I don't disagree with her right to defend herself, there is a higher risk at this time period during the Mercury retrograde of saying things you may later regret, right? I don't know what those things are, but I'm hoping that once this retrograde is over, Melody won't regret anything she says, right? I don't know what she's going to say. She mentioned having 5 bloggers interview with her or meet with her for some sort of session. I think those bloggers should be Dr. Heavenly, Funky Dineva, Color Me Pink, Bondi Blue, Erica De Niro, Rodney the Voice, who else? Gigi with the Juice, I think her name is. But I don't really watch many other content creators because some of the information has become repetitive. But those are the 7 that I think should be at the top of the list because they've been talking about Love and Marriage Huntsville before everybody else. And I think that they all have unique perspectives on this story. Even though I agree with all of them, the way that they think about this situation with Love and Marriage Huntsville is refreshing and unique, and it's unique to their own experiences and perspectives. They're not just copying and pasting stories and just putting out salacious gossip. So I think those 7 bloggers should be at the top of the list. But she'll pick who she wants to pick, and that's all good. I'm just hoping that she doesn't regret anything she says during these conversations, okay? And so, just to recap this, I'm going to let it go. Martell corroborated what I said about him not wanting full custody of the kids. This is not about the kids, because when Martell was married to Melody, he was complaining about her being busy too much, right? He didn't say, okay, since you're so busy, let me work from home, or let me do more things from home, and you can hire somebody to do what I'm doing now, because at this point, I don't have my builder's license yet, and I'm not really an integral component of this company. I can make a position for myself that allows me to work from home with the kids, right? Or to have more time with the kids to cook and clean and be the dominant parent that I said that I am, right? It would make sense for him to do that when he was married. Why does he want to do it now? He also talked about the fact that he didn't want to take custody of Arion's kid because she's a good mother and so on. So you're trying to say that Melody ain't a good mother? So Arion must be a good mother because she allows Martell to control her life. She doesn't have her own thing going on. She needs him. So because she needs him and she's subservient to him and she pretty much does whatever he says, now she's a good mother, right? In spite of the fact that she doesn't like the mother of your other children, she's still a good mommy. In spite of the fact that she basically puts you on blast for not seeing your child with her as much as you do the other kids. For some reason, she's a good mother. Now, I'm not saying that Ariana is a good mother or not. I've never judged her mothering skills, okay? I don't think it's fair to do that based off of snippets online, right? I don't know much about Ariana and her life. I do think that she has a personality disorder based on her erratic responses to things that are completely, like, blown out of proportion, like, just odd, okay? But at the same time, yeah, let me leave that alone for now. But I don't think that Ariana is a better mother than Melody at all. At the very least, we can say that. She's not a better mother than Melody, right? And if Ariana is this great person who's a good mother to your son, why not be with her? Why create another broken home and family? Why not have a nuclear family with this girl, right? So Martell said that Ariana needed to grow up, but she's still a good mother. She's a better mother than Melody. The implication is that Ariana is a better mother than Melody, which is why he's not filing for full custody of his fifth child, right? That's the implication, okay? So the reason why I'm not filing for full custody of Knox is because I don't have to, because Ariana is a good mother, because she waits for me, right? She's at my beck and call whenever I need her to be. She doesn't have a life of her own. Her whole life revolves around me. And because Melody is so busy, right, he puts a lot of weight and emphasis on that. Since she's so busy being a boss, starting businesses from the ground up, making lots of money, being successful, since she's so busy doing that, and she's too busy to pay attention to me, right? Since she's too busy to pay attention to me, let me punish her by taking custody of the children. Martell is jealous of Melody's success because the more successful she becomes, the less successful he looks in comparison. Now, we shouldn't be comparing them because people have different walks and paths of life. But unfortunately, Martell has been competing against Melody for years. So now we have to do what he's been doing, right? And we have to state the obvious. He's obviously competing against Melody, and he has been for a long time, which is why when she started to become too busy, he started to do things to get her to pay more attention to him. And that would be cheating. By cheating, he kept Melody focused on him instead of her career. So when Melody said, "You are blocking me from my blessings," he said, "I know." He was deliberately trying to cut Melody down to size so that he does not look small and insignificant next to her. I said this several months ago. Martell would probably be better as a stay-at-home dad or a dad mom than he would be an entrepreneur. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a stay-at-home father that is doing his part in the household, cooking and cleaning and nurturing the children, while the mother brings home the majority of the bacon, especially if that's what she loves to do. And if you love to be with the kids and she loves to do business, you guys can work together and you stay at home with the kids, right? Not have affairs, not cheat. spend your time nurturing the children and pouring into them, right? And even supporting your wife in her businesses, but also taking care of the household like many women do. Switch the roles up, because Melody kind of was the man in their relationship. And that's why Martell felt threatened also, right? Melody has BDE. Okay, that Scorpio and stellium is a lot of Martian energy. This is somebody who's aggressive, dominant, assertive, passionate, and confident in themselves. Okay, they're masculine, right? Not masculine like brolic with muscles, but like they're less compromising. They're more strong-headed. They're more forceful, aggressive, assertive. They project instead of reflect. Okay. And now I'm speaking about Martian energy archetypically, not Melody personally, but she has a lot of masculine energy, which is great for Martell because he has a lot of feminine energy. I'm not saying he's a bitch, but he's more receptive. He's more laid back. He's less confident than Melody. And even though he has big muscles, he's a Capricorn, he wants to be in charge, but that's not who he is. He's actually more comfortable being in the background, but he wants to be in the background and the foreground. You can't do both. He wants to be taken care of by a woman in a sense, but still be the head and in charge and leading them. This is why he felt more confident around Ariana, who kind of needed him, okay? She seems to be lost and empty without him, which kind of gives him a sense of purpose and value, right? Because she puts him on a pedestal. She used to put him on a pedestal. I think she still does. But he can't do that with Melody. You know, Melody is hard to impress because she has high standards for herself and the people that are around her. So that puts extra pressure on the man that she's dealing with, right? The man has to have BD energy too. But anyway, the fact that Melody is still busy, is very busy, is grinding his gears. But he's partially at fault for this. Well, he's largely at fault for this. If he had kept his penis in the household, right, like he was supposed to do, even after Melody gave him ample opportunities to redeem himself, then he would not be in a situation where he feels like his ex-wife is putting his children in harm's way. But again, Melody is caught between a rock and a hard place because Martell put her in harm's way. So I have my children around a man who hurts me, and now he's telling me that I can't have any man around my kids that could potentially hurt them. It hasn't happened yet, and I don't want it to happen, but we have to now move around and tiptoe and walk around on eggshells to protect Martell's sense of security while he completely shattered my sense of security, right? And the children's sense of security. So I have my children around a man who does not respect their mother and who has no problem using my children to spy on me, right? Martell has no problem bribing his children to get the tea and the deets on their mother. It is psychologically damaging to force children to betray their mother, right? And the children can sense that there's a war between the parents. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point the children start to take advantage of this and play things up, okay? That's going to be a part of their dynamic as well. It happens to a lot of divorcees. The children start to weaponize the guilt of the parents against them to get what they want, to get spoiled. And I hope that Melody has some control over that, okay? But according to Melody, Martell was bribing the children with ice cream and popsicles and desserts. I think peach cobbler, ice cream, and a popsicle, something like that, to give him the details on who is watching them, okay? It is psychologically abusive to force your child to betray their mother. You're forcing the children to betray themselves by betraying their mother. And this is going to cause some psychological complexes if it's not nipped in the bud. If you guys remember last year, Martell went on IG Live, right, with his children in the back seat of the car, right? And he had his children recite a script of how much he does with them and for them compared to what Melody does, right? We do this, we do that. They said it in unison. So they had a script. And Tank was looking at his sisters like, I'm not part of this. He felt conflicted. Tank felt conflicted, okay? He did not want to betray his mother. He feels the need to protect his mother as the only boy she has, okay? So Martell was creating creating complexes within his children because he's dysfunctional and he's abusive too. But he's concerned about somebody else abusing them sexually, but he has no problem abusing his children emotionally and psychologically. What Martell is doing to his children is emotionally and psychologically abusive. The way he's treating their mother is emotionally and psychologically abusive to the children because they see themselves as her, right? They're still at the age where a large part of their identity is wrapped up in their parents, right? They are who their parents are. And then they get into adolescence and then they hate their parents. But for the most part, the children see themselves as extensions of their parents. So when you force your children to betray their mother or their father, you're forcing them to betray themselves. They're going to begin to be dishonest with themselves about their own feelings. And that's how you develop complexes as a child, okay? Martel doesn't see this because he's very, very, very selfish. He's so selfish that, again, when he was married and unhappy, right, instead of destroying his family, he would have found the time to do what he says is the most important to him, being with his kids. That's what would have happened. But again, it's not about the kids. It was never about the children. That's what I said 2-3 days ago. Even though I was wrong about the court case ruling, I was right about everything else. Martel does not want custody of those kids. That would be too much of a burden for him. This is just performance theater for him and a way for him to break Melody out of her gray rock state. Martel was so happy when Melody clapped back at him today. He got a rise out of her. That's what he wanted all along, right? What people don't understand is that Martel has a very disarming personality. He speaks slowly, he speaks softly, he speaks calmly, right? He has a melodic voice, right? And women get hypnotized by that. Oh, he's so handsome, right? He speaks about the kids and things of that nature, right? He loves his children. He's a good father. He's a good man. He's got muscles. He got a bald head. He's such a nice person. If this is who he really is, Melody wouldn't have snapped today. There's a lot of mess going on behind the scenes. Behind that soft, calm demeanor, right? Mr. Professional, Mr. Boss Man, Mr. Model Citizen, Mr. Good Husband, Mr. Good Daddy. There's a whole nother side that is diametrically opposed to this illusion. Two totally different people, Jekyll and Hyde. And Melody spoke about that, right? We saw what happened in season 3 when they went on the Las Vegas trip. Martel turned into the Incredible Hulk when Melody reminded him of his indiscretions, right? So, yeah, Martel has a nasty temper. I see it in his chart. He has Mars and Saturn and Pluto in the same house, right? I don't know how wide the conjunction is. I haven't looked at his chart in a while. But Mars, Saturn, and Pluto together in the same sign, that is somebody who has a hot temper and somebody who is ruthless for power. I'm not going to get into that too much now, but yeah, just to wrap it up again, I do apologize if I misrepresented this story as far as the custody agreement, but I'm going to stand on what I said. He doesn't want custody of the kids, and he agreed with that. He doesn't, but he's going to keep terrorizing Melody because it's easier to do that than to admit that he lost. So one more thing. If Martel says that he doesn't want random men around his children, does it mean that Melody can't get married or have a significant relationship? Because if Melody can't even have her brother around her children, then what would he say about a boyfriend or a stepfather or husband, right? Because, like I said, there are some stepfathers who are evil predators. I am aware of this, but that's not Martel's concern, right? Or he's using that concern to maintain control over Melody. I will say this, Martel, if you're listening, right, and I don't know if he listens to my channel or not. If he does, whatever. If he doesn't, whatever. Okay. Melody doesn't trust you. And she doesn't trust you because you hurt her repeatedly before you got married, during your marriage, and even after the marriage. So, in her mind, if she can't trust you, you are now an enemy to her. And whatever advice or suggestions you give to her should be taken with a grain of salt, right? She doesn't think that you have her or the kids' best interests at heart, okay? And she does not want to have any relationship with you whatsoever. So sharing a nanny, a chef, a maid, or whatever, babysitters, that's an ideal situation with somebody she trusts, who has protected her heart, who will protect her children. But unfortunately, Martel has shown that his children aren't even safe around him if he's willing to use them to spy on their mother. Melody would love to be able to trust Martel. It would make her life a whole lot easier. But the fact that Melody is doing everything in her power to avoid giving Martel any say-so over her life is a testament to how abusive he has been to her thus far. Raising 4 kids as a single parent is very difficult, okay? Raising 4 kids as a couple is difficult. The fact that Melody is choosing to do this the hard way, to me, means that it is harder for her to co-parent with Martel than it is to do it by herself. Why would it be harder to co-parent with somebody who says they love their kids? What are they doing to make it difficult for you to do your job as the mother, which would benefit your children, right? If it's all about the kids, Why do I not feel comfortable having you in my life? Which would make it easier for me to be a parent to your children. What are you doing behind the scenes that people don't know about to make Melody not only afraid of you, but utterly disgusted by you, to the point where she's ready to put you on blast now? This is why I like analyzing subtext. I don't look at what people say. And a part of me doesn't even trust what they do, right? I look at the motivations. I look at the psychological profile of a person, past behaviors, words, thoughts, whatever. All of that paints a comprehensive picture that gives me insight into a person's next move. Okay, so the suppositions that I make about the show, the predictions that I've made, are based on patterns of behavior. Okay, as I've said before, I have paid for my knowledge. It was expensive. The things that I know about the situation with Melody and Martel is not just about her. Okay, I know a lot about this because I've endured this personally, and I've seen loved ones go through this. So these are expensive lessons for me, and I don't want to disrespect my platform by getting sucked into some of the negative side stories that are cropping up because it's profitable. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that too much. Just to recap this quickly, I'm going to be suspending astrology readings and consultations for the month of September, but as a treat to my loyal subscribers, right, I'm going to publish weekly and monthly tarot readings for each sign. I'm also going to start posting more content to the community forum. I've taken a step back from those things because everything that's been happening over the past 2 months has been crazy. Hopefully with this retrograde, I'll have the opportunity to return to the things that I've been doing before and to finish projects that I've started, okay? But I hope this situation between Martel and Melody gets resolved civilly and things don't escalate and get worse. Because Martel has shown that he has no problem doing whatever it takes to get what he wants, including hurting his children. We see how ruthless he was when it came to getting his needs met with Arion, right? He was willing to do anything to get his needs met, to get his meat sucked. Anything, including destroy his family, right? So now he's willing to do anything to make Melody look like an inadequate parent, right? And I don't know how far he's going to go, but nothing surprises me. Martel never surprises me. He disappoints me, but he never surprises me. I can predict his behavior 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years out because it's textbook, right? This is a case study for narcissistic abuse. Okay, if you're a psychologist or a therapist and you watch this show, you know what Martel's going to do too. I'm not a therapist. I'm an analyst though. And analysts look at patterns of behavior just like therapists do. On a final note, there's a burgeoning conversation about the state of R&B. And if you guys remember, I posted some commentary about how whack R&B has been, especially after seeing the versus battle between Mario and Omarion. And I talked about how this happened, right? And who's to blame for it. Okay, and Diddy was like, yeah, you know, the algorithm's to blame for it. No, it wasn't just the algorithm. There are many other factors that contributed to the downfall of R&B. And one of them was the fact that Black music executives, right, and powerful people in the industry were signing women they wanted to have sex with. That's one of 50,000 reasons. But I'll talk about that in the near future. I look forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.